I want to go back to that breaking news, our top story all day long. Fotis Dulos remains in critical condition at this hour after attempting suicide at his home in Farmington. He's now being treated at a hospital in New York City. This all unfolded on the same day he could have been taken back into custody. And joining us now for what's next in this very complicated case is our law enforcement analyst, retired state police Lieutenant J. Paul Vance. Lieutenant Vance, good to see you back here in the program.
Good to be here.
So first of all, I want to ask you, because I know that you haven't really dealt with a suicide in a case that you've been working on, but it has happened nationally. I know the Charles Stewart case in Boston, there are many of them where the suspects, as the evidence begins to mount, they then kill themselves. And we don't know what his mindset was today, but what are police investigating?
Well, certainly they're going to try and answer all the questions as to how this occurred, why this occurred, when this occurred. In Farmington, specifically, it's a separate individual. It's a criminal case. They call it a criminal case because they do everything in this type of attempted suicide as they would do in a homicide case, gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, the whole gamut. Try to answer all the questions as to why, how.
When a few people, responded to the news that he had died earlier, when we announced that, and everybody announced that he had been dead, they were asking, well, we'll never know where Jennifer Dulos' body is. How frustrating is that for investigators when an accused killer does die and there are unanswered questions?
Well, it's terribly frustrating, quite frankly, because investigators want to bring closure to the family. They certainly want to do their job and answer all the questions on that homicide. And certainly there was hope that maybe there was some information, maybe there was something at that attempted suicide scene that may help investigators move forward. But this case is still open and still active, as is the homicide investigation.
If he recovers fully from this, can this suicide attempt be used against him in court? Can they say, well, why would an innocent person do this?
That's to be determined by the prosecutor, quite frankly. I think waiting to see what occurs and how he recovers, or if he recovers, is probably the next step.
Walk us through what happened when police showed up. I know that you weren't there for this particular case, but what would the procedure be when they show up at a case like this? They show up at the scene and he is in a car and he's in distress.
They did an outstanding job. They got to the scene, and from what we can see, they rescued him from the car, brought him out to fresh air, and began checking vital signs and administering CPR immediately, which is crucial, as you know, to keep the brain alive, keep blood and oxygen flowing to the brain. And they did a great job. EMS responded, did their work. Advanced life support got there and did even more work, okay, and transported him to the hospital to where we are today. We
don't know who made that call yet for the welfare check that he was not in court. Someone called up, but he had a visitor at 11:18 who showed up at his house. This woman was involved in the bond, we know, and then she left at 11:28, 11:54. They get a call that he is, the welfare check. How much of a role will she play in terms of the last minutes of?
Well, there's no question.
Before we tried this.
Yeah, there's no question that investigators will want to interview her and talk to her and really put together a firm timeline and information as to her reason for being there, her reason for coming back, and certainly any other information that she can provide to investigators as they pursue this case.
We hope to learn more about her. All right, Lieutenant Paul Vance, we'll see you again. Thank you so much for helping us with this case.